Good evening, everyone. This is Reading for Charity again, and today we're going to be looking at The Wolves of Calla. Yes, I did indeed actually get this finished in time, which I think is a miracle that nobody was expecting. If today you hear anything that sounds like a motorcycle engine going, it is because my cat is sitting right here, refusing to move. Having been out all day, he tends to do this, and the purrs are probably what you can hear. So be warned. Let me know if it's distracting enough, and I won't let him do it again. So the usual little spiel at the start. Reading for Charity, we are reading for the Archie Foundation, which is a fantastic charity that helps sick kids in the northeast of Scotland. It's a brilliant charity. The description is in. Sorry, the links are in the description of the video. Whether you're watching this on Twitch or watching this on YouTube, if you've never donated to them, go ahead. A couple of quid, throw it their way, help some kids. It's a fantastic charity, and it's a really good thing to do, which is why I'm doing this. If you've never seen this any of these videos before, I'm looking to read 100 books in a year. These books were all suggested by donation. I have scoured the charity shops and the online marketplaces to get these books as cheaply as possible. None of the donation money has gone into the books. It's all come out of my own pocket. And so far we've raised over £600 for the Archie Foundation. Hopefully we can raise more. There's not been any since I've actually started doing the reading. It was all in the donation stage, but fingers crossed it can only get more. So today, The Wolves of Calla by Stephen King. Actually read, and that's a chunky book. 640 pages, I think, is it? 620 pages? 620 pages. It's a big, hefty lump of a book. And it didn't really suffer from any of the problems that Wizard and Glass had, which is the previous one in the series. I was a little bit worried at the end of Wizard and Glass that we were going to get the... it was going to go downhill. Wizard and Glass wasn't the best book in the world at all. In fact, you could have chopped out most of that book and it would not have made a jot of difference. When it comes to Stephen King telling someone's past, in this case Roland's past, by basically writing a book inside a book, it didn't really work particularly well. However, in this case, with Wolves of Calla, he's written fantastically well, especially Callahan's backstory. The way that's been woven into the book is the right way to weave it in, which is a piece at a time, interspersed with the story, and so the links make sense. It's far better written than Wizard and Glass, and Stephen King's actually found the way to write epic amounts of backstory in one go with this book. I was glad to see the the Wizard of Oz allegory, and not so allegorical, come to an end just as quickly as it started at the end of Wizard and Glass, and it makes me wonder why it was in there at all. It feels like King had a whole bunch of ideas, and again, we know this is Stephen King's writing style. He writes and writes and writes and writes and writes and very rarely edits. So you end up with an awful lot of hodgepodge of ideas that occasionally go somewhere and frequently go nowhere. And I think the Wizard of Oz bit at the end of Wizard and Glass was simply an idea that was going nowhere. It was stopped as soon as it started, which was good. Because that meant The Wolves of Calla was a far better book. He's also kind of open about the influences he's taken for this book, and he's obviously sat down and watched a bunch of westerns. I think he calls it A Fistful of Dollars, and yes, Fistful of Dollars, A Few Dollars More, The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, and The Seven Samurai, and you can see that in the book. It's very much written like a filmatic western. The strangers coming into the town and clearing up the bad business that's going on with the Harriers, and it works. And if anything, Stephen King I think has found the style that works for this series. And if he was going to turn it into a long-running series rather than an epic, and I think at this point any pretense at an epic is completely out the window. it isn't an epic. It's a whole bunch of stories of what happened to Roland and friends on while the epic was going on, almost in the background. Maybe that'll change for Song for Susanna and The Dark Tower, but I'm not sure. The good things about Wolves of Calla, the characters are all great. I love the meta story that's going on. The way that the Black 13 works, the way that Stephen King has abandoned any pretense at mysterious story writing and has just surrendered everything to Ka. when the characters are actually expressing displeasure with other characters about Ka, it's almost I think you can almost hear the editor's voice complaining to Stephen King, but why are they doing this? And Stephen King's going, it's Ka, I don't know. So you've got Roland speaking to Jake or speaking to Eddie, going, Eddie's asking, or Jake, I think in this case, in this book, it was asking Roland, but why are we doing this? What's the point of this? And Roland's going, I don't know, it's Ka. You can see the parallels, I think, between the real life and the book life, which doesn't make it bad at all. I quite enjoy that. I quite enjoy on rails story writing. You can see where everything's going. You know how things are going to happen. And you can just enjoy the ride. You don't have to worry about it too much. All the happy coincidences that make up a piece of narrative, are conveniently all hand waved aside by saying, it's Ka, it's the path of the beam. All things serve the beam. He's got 3 or 4 little phrases, which basically means, don't think about it too hard. It's just a book. And I love that. That's really good. I'm happy with that. I'm always happier when I'm worrying about a story than I am about worrying about backstory or world consistency or anything else. I would be I wouldn't be massively surprised if the end of The Dark Tower, the 7th book, Roland wakes up in the vacant lot clutching a rose and and has a heroin needle sticking out of his arm, and it was all just one drug-induced dream. I could happily see that happening at the end, and maybe I'd be like, what a cop-out. But then again, maybe it wouldn't, because I've enjoyed the story so far. I'm not really worrying about the meta story too much. So yeah, it was really, really enjoyable. The way he's tied all the different elements together by just going, don't worry about it too much, it's all fine. He keeps throwing little kind of cultural motifs, I suppose would be the right way to put it, leitmotifs maybe even, into the way that he writes the books, and some of that is with the crossover between our world and Roland's world. Though Roland does say that he's gone beyond his world. Lud was the edge of his world, and the Outer Rim is far beyond anywhere he went, which kind of raises the point. If actually, I've just thought about that. If the Dark Tower is where the beams all cross, would that not mean the Dark Tower is on the inner world? If all the all the beams start on the Outer Rim, isn't he just riding away from the Dark Tower to get to the beam? Sorry, it feels like he's going the wrong way all of a sudden. I just thought about that, but just the way the book's described, it feels like he's going the wrong way. But again, with the hand wavingness, of Ka and everything else, time and space are ibbly wibbly timey wimey in the world now. So perhaps going away from the Dark Tower actually means he's going towards the Dark Tower, or Stephen King just hadn't thought about it terribly closely and just kept writing, which is more than likely. Where was I going before I got interrupted mid-rant? So I think Stephen King's kind of abandoned any pretense at trying to explain the peculiarities in his world. He really is just hand-waving it now. The cultural motifs, that's where I was. The things like the Elton John song being repeated over and over and over again through Carol Han's time in New York. The Hey Judes, the Doc Doom references with the wolves. Again, you're kind of like going, but why? And if it goes somewhere, cool. If it doesn't, it's just another one of those, okay, fair enough, just something you've thrown at the end of the book to go, ha ha ha. Just like he's thrown his own name. So Salem's Lot, which is the book of the story of Callahan, is referenced in this book as Stephen King, as the author, and Callahan sitting reading it going, but wait a minute, I'm real, I'm not fiction, I'm not a story. And you're sitting going at this point, well mate, you might be. Who knows? This could go anywhere. Which is nice kind of I really hope that continues. I would really like to see Callahan being discombobulated by the whole thing, as he's going through the book. You know, going, am I actually am I a story come to life? Did somebody dream me? Am I in a book just now? That would make quite a good chunk of Song of Susanna, which I have not started yet. I'm starting it straight after this. So we'll see. I've got no insight or spoilers into Song of Susanna yet. The downside. So yes, another thing I liked about Wolves of Calla was finally we got some strong female characters who actually had positive upsides, which he's kind of been lacking up until now. Even Susanna, you couldn't class that she was properly heroic because of Odetta and Detta and now Mia in this book. The women all have very strong negative counterpoints, and the point that Stephen King made through the start of Wizards and Glass, actually, I think, was the two, Odetta and Detta coming together has made a strong, powerful, independent woman who don't need no man kind of thing, but she still has all the negative qualities of the two of them as well. So he still had, his main female character having a negative image, and very few of the women that had appeared in any of these books had positive images. Wolves of Calla has very strong female badassery. That's probably the right way to do it. With the sisters of Ariza, the plate throwers who can decapitate robots. They're well cool, and the fact that they put all the men to complete and total shame at the end of the book is fantastic. It's really, really good. I really enjoyed that. I'm glad finally that Stephen King wrote some positive pieces for women in some of the Dark Tower. Now, the flip side of that, however, is the problem called Susanna, or Mia, or Odetta, or Detta, or whatever she's calling herself today. Continues to be a classic female problem, maybe, is that the right way to put it, that you find in a lot of books, where a pregnancy is the driving part of the story. So without any spoilers about what's going on, at the end of the book, Susanna is having her baby, if that's what you want to call it, and the new personality introduced in this book, Mia, has taken control and fled through one of the doors, presumably, and I'm going to say this, presumably to New York, because that seems to be the only other place the doors open to. Well, that's not true. They open once to New England. Of course, it's New England. Why wouldn't it be New England? That seems to be the only other place in America. New York, New England. That's it. That's the only two places I ever read about in America, with the possible exception of American Gods. I think that's the only one. But then that is the quintessential American travel novel. Digressing, very much digressing. That would be because I have some whiskey. So there's positive women in this book, which is good. Stephen King had that problem, I felt, up until now. It's taken him 5 books to get some kick-ass women actually in there, and we've got some, and it's great. Congratulations, Stephen King. Well done. Any other positives I want to say before we keep going? Yeah, again, I think there was a little bit this book could have been chopped out. It is, what did I say, it was 600 pages? 620 pages. Again, he probably could have lost 200 pages of the book and kept it as good as it was. There's an awful lot of kind of make, do and see, which rattles along the book. Not as badly as it was in Wizard and Glass, where you could have chopped out, out of a 600 page book, you could have chopped out 500 pages of it quite happily, without easily. It was way too long because the same things happened over and over and over again. He suffers a little bit from that here again, and you can almost feel that he's just writing to tick over while he's waiting for the next big idea to happen. How am I going to resolve this? And you can actually feel the fingers typing. Well, the brain's not actually watching what the fingers are doing. The brain's thinking about what's going to happen next. And he suffers again from that a little bit in this. There's a little bit of, Jake with the Sleipmans is kind of extended slightly beyond where it needed to be. The fact when they're going around the town is extended a wee bit longer than it needs to be. To the extent where the conclusion to the book is fitted in the last kind of 25 pages. Not counting the epilogue. but the conclusion to the story, really, of the Wolves of Calla, because the epilogue is basically just dealing with next time on the Dark Tower, setting up a Song for Susanna, essentially. Ignoring the epilogue, the kind of conclusion of the book is the 20 pages, 25 pages, really. And I suppose that kind of fits in a little bit with the Western. The cowboy, shoots the bad guy dead in the street, doffs his cap to the lady and rides out of town on horseback into the setting sun, end of film. So I suppose, it has precedence in cowboy films. But you do kind of want to know a little bit of what happens to Calla after that, what happens to the rest of the Crescent, now the wolves have gone. Do the town feel like they maybe want to go and hunt down the people that sent the wolves? Again, no spoilers. Do they want revenge for the runt children now that they know what's going on with it? Would Roland tell them now that he knows what's going on with it? There's all that information. What happens to Benny Slightman? These are the... Is it Benny? Or is Benny the kid? Whichever one of the Slightmans it is. The elder, yes. Those are the kind of things you kind of maybe want to know at the end of the book. It's not important in terms of the meta story, but because you've spent 90% of this book talking about Calla and what goes on and the cowboy story you're telling with there, not to really give it any form of epilogue for that story kind of makes me go, no, just spend 5 more pages telling you what's going on there and then get to the epilogue. It is a little bit like you kind of went, bang, 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 they're all dead, it's all done. Right, now, back to the story I want to tell. But we'll see. I kind of got the feeling, I had this thought when I was driving home in the car this afternoon. He's gotten rid of the idea of the epic entirely now. The gunslinger and the drawing of the three. When there was no external story to be told, it was all Roland and the Catet's story in the journey towards the Dark Tower. And I include Wastelands in there as well. Yes, I do. It still had the epic at the end of Wastelands when they're on Blaine. The idea of the epic of them, their journey, their story was still in place, and I think it had the kind of, maybe didn't have the Lord of the Rings feel about it, but it had the Lord of the Rings-esque feel about it. There was a similar idea. The people going on the long journey to the Dark Tower or the volcano or the mountain or murder or whichever bit you want to cast your MacGuffin into. But with Song for Susanna and Wolves of Calla, he's abandoned the epic now. It's no longer necessarily about them. It's very much about the journey and what happens to them on the journey. Not even what happens to them. They happen to other people on the journey. So Wolves of Calla was about the people of Calla and the town of Calla and what was happening on them. Roland, etc., helped them out. So they were the wandering adventures. That it becomes more episodical, more classical fantasy at that point, and less epic. And I'm slightly sad about that. I liked the idea of the epic. I liked the idea of the great kind of ring cycle style, wanderers travelling through, and everything that happens to them. They don't happen to other people. So I'll explain that slightly better. So things that happen to them. Ludd in the Wastelands happens to them when they arrive there. Jake gets captured. They fight their way through Ludd. Roland fetches Jake back, having to kill random people. Eddie and Susanna have to make their way to Blaine and then start getting their way through the riddles. All the things that happen to them. They are reacting to the situation. In the Song for Susanna and Wolves of Calla, they could at any point get up and leave, and the story of the book would have continued without them. So if Roland and Eddie and Susanna and Jake had decided not to help the people of Calla, if they decided to just ride on and rejoin the beam, the wolves would have still come, the wolves would have still taken the children of Calla, and the story of Calla would have continued. It would have been, the things that would have been happening were happening to people who were not Roland and Jake and Eddie and Susanna. So it's a little bit of the Indiana Jones thing. Things would have happened regardless of their presence. Their presence changed the outcome of what was going on, but the story isn't necessarily their story. They are they are not the protagonists of the story. The town of Calla is. So that at this point, it's not an epic anymore. It's not about them. He could have written this book with anybody in it, any set of outlaws in it, and the story would essentially have been the same. People come in, help the people of Calla, say thank you, sigh, and leave. It doesn't necessarily need to have been Roland and his quartet. So it's not, so the series is no longer about Roland. It is superficially because it's all told from their standpoints, etc. But it's not, because Song for Susanna, which was about Susan Delgado, Rose of Calla, which is about the people of Calla, are books set in the world of the Dark Tower, but aren't necessarily part of the story of the Dark Tower. Which is a very long round way of coming back to the point I was going to make originally, which is for an epic, not very much has actually happened when you think about it. So when we first meet Roland, he's wandering through Tull. He meets some people in Tull. He sleeps with a woman in Tull. He kills every inhabitant in Tull. He wanders on. He meets Jake. He lets Jake fall to his death, meets the man in black, wakes up later on, draws Susanna and Eddie through the doors, gets 2 of his fingers bitten off. Then they continue travelling. They pull Jake through the door, through his particular door, so making their quartet of 4. They find Oy. They travel to Ludd. Jake gets kidnapped and then brought back again. They get on Blaine. Blaine takes them towards the outer rims. They kill Blaine. they wander on. They reach Calla. They help some people out in Calla, and so on. And when you actually break it down and think about what they've actually done in their epic, there's not actually a huge amount there. There's most of it is, out of those 8 things I think I just mentioned, 5 of them are getting the band together. Which even Lord of the Rings managed inside of the first book. 2/3 of the first book even. It's taken Stephen King 5 books essentially to get to the same point, if you count Callahan as part of the quartet, which he may or may not be at this moment in time. So yeah, it's less of an epic feel. It's more episodic, which kind of makes me sad that there's only 2 books left to go, because I'm wondering how they wrap it up. It feels like it gets wrapped up very quickly from now on, if he keeps the same idea going. If the Song for Susanna is all about rescuing Susanna from Mia, and the chap, again no spoilers, you get another book which is again not in service to the Beam, but it's essentially in service to other things that aren't the epic, which then leaves maybe only the Dark Tower actually dealing with the epic. And then you'll have had, out of 7 books, you'll have had 3 of them about getting the gang together, 2 of them about saving other people, 1 of them about saving themselves, and then 1 actually about the epic. So we'll see at the end of the Dark Tower whether I still feel the same, but at the moment it doesn't feel much of an epic. It feels much more episodic, and in which case, write some more damn books, Stephen King, because I quite enjoy the world. We'll see. We've got a film coming out this year. I think it's this year, so that should be quite good as well. Though they've got Idris Elba playing it. So if they follow the book, and I've been told they're not, but if they do follow the gunslinger drawing the 3 Essentia, how does Idris Elba's character interact with Susanna's character, or more pointedly, Detta Walker's character, who reacts very badly to white people? That's kind of the point of Detta. It'll be interesting to see what they do. I've been told it's different, but I'll finish reading all 7 books first, and then we'll work out what's going on. Right, enough rambling. I shall sum up. The Wolves of Calla. It is a damn fine book. I think it's my favourite of the Dark Tower so far. It's a really, really good story. I think Stephen King's gotten away from his original ideas. That's fine, because it's resulted in a really good book, which I really enjoyed. If you're reading the Dark Tower series, this isn't one to skip, because there's an awful lot that goes on in this one. It's not like Wisdom and Glass where you could skip 90% of the book and you're fine. This one actually matters. And I think this one actually makes me want to finish the series now, because after Wisdom and Glass I was like, this is if it continues in this vein, I'm going to just, read the next ones quickly. But Wolves of Calla was good. It's restored my faith in what the series might be. Yeah, so next time out is Song for Susanna, which I don't have sitting beside me, it's in the hall. So Song for Susanna, that will be Wednesday, hopefully. It's not as thick as the Wolves of Calla. I'm hoping I'm going to get it done in time. I'm running short of filler books, it has to be said. I've read most of the thin books I've got. So between Song for Susanna and the Dark Tower is a meaty book. Sitting over there. I've got a week to read those two books, and that's a lot of reading to get done in a week. So I hopefully won't need a filler book, but I definitely might do for the Dark Tower. We'll see. Next, sorry, what are we? 10 days time. 10 days time might be a little late. We'll see. That's a week on Wednesday. There's reasons for that, but if it's going to be late, it's either going to be a late night one, or it will be on the Thursday. Probably on the Thursday, but we'll see. Anyway, finishing spiel. This is Reading for Charity. We're reading for the Archie Foundation. It's a fantastic charity that works in the northeast of Scotland for sick kids who have to be into hospital. It's a wonderful charity. I've donated myself. I'm doing this for them. If you've never donated before, please go ahead, donate. It's a brilliant charity to support. If you've never donated before, go ahead. It's a really good thing. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching, whether it's on Twitch, whether it's on YouTube. I've given up asking for people to come in, because everyone knows it's on 8 o'clock on a Wednesday and Sunday, and no one is. But that's fine. These are just here to prove that I've read the books. If anyone ever turns around and says, "Did you actually read that terrible novel that I gave, the Archie Foundation money for?" I can point to these and say, yes, I did. There's what I thought of that nonsense. So yes, thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching. I will speak to you all again on Wednesday with the Song of Susanna, hopefully. Good evening.